Off we go here. Hi, Tony Dattino here from Windermere, Florida, enjoying a nice warm spring day. As you can tell, I've got my Caribbean shirt on today. Had a little bit of chance to do a little bit of swimming. The water was a little chilly this morning, but it was a wonderful day. And in my Wednesday 5 o'clock hour, doing my Life with Tony. And wanted to continue to follow up on what I had done on Monday evening when I was talking about the recap of things that we want you to remember when it comes to memory. Starting with the fact that we have an infinite potential of retaining and recalling and creating and communicating. It's a skill, and so I always want people to think of memory as a skill. Learning gets easier as we get older. In fact, learning gets easier as we continue to learn. It doesn't matter what age we are. And you want to remember. It's when you focus and look to encode, when you begin to allow yourselves to remember things. Learning sessions should be 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes to an hour in terms of sessions and breaks. And long-term memory has something we call memory rhythms. Well, those were 6 of the 7 points that I made on Monday, and I left the 6 factors that impact brain health to go for a separate section because we are now, Michael Dattino is now taking his Maximum Memory Mastery online course, and he's breaking out one of those sections into a longer course called The 6 Key Factors of Brain Health. And I left that for a separate Live with Tony, which I'm doing this evening. And it comes from work that we've done over the last 20 years and the science that's coming out just about weekly on what are things that we need to be thinking about when it comes to our brain health and how our memories are encoded and facilitated through 6 variables that we can control in our lives if we just, first of all, recognize that they were a variable, and second of all, we could respect that there was things that we could take into our own power, into our own actions, and we could actually do these things. So let's go through what those 6 are. We've covered them in individual elements in the past, but I now want to pull this together since we've got a new online course that's in the process of being made that's gotten a lot of interest and attention from people of all ages, but especially people in their 40s and older, which is interesting. We ought to be thinking about these things in our teens and 20s. But in any case, nutrition. So let's go through them. Nutrition's our first one, and there's a whole new section on nutrition that is in this new course that Michael is doing, and it talks about the value, the importance of nutrition. If you think about, right, our principles of memory and mental health, we breathe and we eat and we influence our chemistry of our brain cells through the nutrition and the oxygen that we take into our bodies. And so the different foods that we eat have a huge impact on the chemistry that mixes up in our nucleus of a brain cell and then creates the synaptic firings. These are the electrochemical impulses that generate our thinking and obviously equally generate our ability to encode as those synaptic firings take place. How quickly can they connect? It's kind of like you short-circuiting the wiring in your house and then wondering why your lights or your TV don't go on. Your brain is in a similar fashion through the oxygen we're breathing in and the foods that we are eating have this ability to connect electrochemical connections that then generate our thinking models and our retention and recall. And the better that we have the chemistry inside of our brain cells that facilitate that, the better that we can in terms of thinking. So there was an interesting study I read a number of years ago that really illustrates this effectively, and if people could just realize this, it came out of a study that was done by American Geriatrics. Now, it was done for seniors, but this applies to everybody. Stop and think about this. It was a study of American Geriatrics, and they were looking at people that were being diagnosed with early cognitive impairment, and they were curious as to what their diets were, and they were looking at what their nutritional habits were. Now, if you are a person worrying about your cholesterol, or you're somebody worrying about your heart health, you've read so much about taking fats out of your diet. And so what seniors were doing was taking fats out of their diets. But what we've learned since those studies, there are good fats and there are bad fats. There are fats that clog up your cells or clog up your arteries, and there are fats that help facilitate, and in their brain's case, help insulate the axons and insulate the neurons. And so those fats are like insulation that you have on wiring in your home. And if you take that insulation away, you short circuit your firings. Well, your brain works the same way. So fats in a diet with the proper diet and the proper fats provides the myelin sheaths and the insulation around them so that the firings can take place as quickly as possible. So this is just one of the lessons that we've learned about nutrition and its importance. I could go on and on. Nutrition has become a major topic in terms of scientists and researchers and biologists studying what nutrition does in terms of our brain. And so many different things now that are taking place on foods that we can eat, vitamins that we may take, or things that we can ingest as nutritional habits and part of our nutritional habits that have a huge difference on our brain. The next one that is just, it's a bombardment. It's about exercise. And we do not need to think about exercise as if we're a marathon runner or we're going to go out and run 10 miles a day or 10 miles a week. It's exercise in any fashion. And this is what has just been mind-blowing over the last 6 months even during COVID. The research coming out that says any type of aerobic and strength and physical exercise that we can engage in is incredibly important, and it doesn't need that you've got to be a big weightlifter or you got to go to the gym 5 days a week. It means that you want to be active, and even as you're watching TV, as I say to people, just get up and down out of a chair 10 times during a TV program. Without what? Using your hands. So just use all your leg muscles and your stomach muscles, your glutes. They'll put you up and down, and just do that 10 times watching a TV program. And if you can't do 10 times, do 2. Start with 2, and then at the next commercial, get up and do 3, and just figure out how to keep your body movement. Walking up and down steps, it's always amazing to me when I've gone to the gym and see people getting on the elevator on the first floor instead of walking up a flight of steps to the second floor of the gym. Hey, get on the steps and walk up and down a flight of steps. If you don't have steps in your residence, make your own. Put something on the floor, a couple of books together, just make a stack of books, and just stand up and down and walk up and down. Work your calves, work your thighs. Just work your muscles in your body, and then if you want to do some aerobic activity, then do some of the bands and the elastic bands and things. Bring up the aerobic activity. Walk up and down through your own residence. Don't care how small it is. Do some things that get your heart rate going up and moving about. And so these are some of the things. And even a mild walk. I've read recently, a mild walk 5 minutes after dinner keeps the nutritional things that you've got in your body from building glucose and storing it into your dietary systems. 5 minutes of getting out after dinner, a world of difference. And we are getting out a little bit more. We're not looking to go into crowds. We're not asking you to go out into malls or into big conglomerate areas, but find a place that you can at least go spend a few minutes of your own time and take a 5-minute walk after dinner. The science is saying it makes a huge difference. So exercise number 2. So nutrition, exercise. Your sleep habits. And we all know we got to get our sleep. But the questions that we're learning about is what are we doing before we try to get to sleep? And what are we watching? What are we reading? What are we talking about? And what are the different tips that we can find that we can get a good night's sleep? And just reading an article yesterday, even if we're worried, this is, insane, right? They talk about one of the elements of insomnia. If we're worried about whether we're going to be able to get sleep and whether we have to get up at what time in the morning, and we start worrying about that when we're going to sleep, it's going to cause us to stay awake. And I know when I have early morning appointments, I tend to wake up earlier than when I don't have an appointment till mid-morning or so. So just how many hours of sleep you're thinking you need to get, and you start tracking that in your head, it keeps you awake at night. And that was it's not funny. I mean, I know people who have insomnia, and it's not funny when you're trying to get a night's rest and you're dealing with, gee, how am I going to get to sleep, and what time am I going to get to sleep by, and what do I have to do in terms of getting up? A fourth element is social interaction. And again, we keep talking about this, and I keep saying COVID is like the most massive experiment that we're ever going to have, research study we'll ever have, on locking down and the impact that that's having on social interaction and restricting us and feeling like, whoa. And reading today's paper, they're talking about people feel like they've been in cages now for a year, and they're just busting out of the cages, sometimes not too smartly and sometimes a little carelessly, but people are just wanting to get out. And I see it here in the Orlando area. Our theme parks, Universal, SeaWorld, Disney, are all reaching their maximum attendance level. People are just busting out. They're eager to get out and do something. Well, it's that social interaction and having fun and talking with other people. But we don't need to be crazy and go into massive arenas and sports complexes to do all that. We can do that in the domain of 5 to 10 people within our own little sphere of people that we interact with. But maintaining social interaction is going to be interesting, as well as how well will Zoom take over when people feel like they've been Zooming for so much and now they need to get back out into the world again and meet people. I think it's going to just be a massive, I was going to use the word hugging, but it's going to be a massive interest in people just seeing people and talking to them again. The fifth one we talk about are mental challenges. And this is the fun part of what I say to people, maximum memory mastery. Take that course and bring yourself through some new mental challenges. And they're discovering that your brain is like a muscle, right? We talk about exercise, aerobic and physical running and things of that sort, anaerobic and aerobic. Well, your brain is in a similar fashion. What are you doing that's exercising your brain? Meaning, what is it that you're putting in front of yourself on a weekly basis? And again, 10 or 15 minutes, 3 times a week. Isn't that crazy? One of our mental athletes that won the memory championship, being interviewed after he won the championship, said, how much did you study? He said, 20 minutes, 3 times a week. And next, I'm a mental athlete and a memory champion. So mental challenges are certainly something that you can look at, and what are you doing to put some new learning and new coding, new dendritic spines into your brain. And this is where I feel excited about the work that we've been doing through our online courses in giving people little vignettes, little buckets and lessons where they can grab it 5-10 minute lessons. Nothing massive where you got to just take a whole week and study all this stuff. 5 or 10 minutes. Just do it 2-3 times a week. And make sure that you're in a constant flow of exercising your brain. And then last but not least, the recognition that our emotions have a significant impact to our memories and to our ability to encode when they're pleasant. Sometimes when they're post-traumatic, they encode. Those we really would like to forget. But our emotions have a huge impact on how well we retain, encode, recall different life experiences, different things we're trying to learn. So how do we use that in a positive way is one of the things that we're trying to teach people is, so how do you use the elements of emotions, your excitement, your enthusiasm, your passion, in a positive way to retain things? And how do we deal with the stresses in our life that produce an anxiety or a phobia or a fear or an anger? And how do we manage those two in terms of our lives? So those are our 6 elements of brain health: our nutrition, our exercise, our sleep, our social interactions, our mental challenges, and our emotional stresses or passions, excitements, and enthusiasms. And we're working right now on a course on those 6 factors that expand each of those 6 and teach people, so what are some of the things you need to be aware of, and how can you take some of the things that science is now sharing with us and make that work for you to have stronger cognitive fitness, better memories, which then lead to more creativity and just a happier life of you becoming the best version of yourself. We shall see you again on the Friday 5 o'clock hour. Have a good couple of days, and we'll see you then. But I do enjoy bringing you up to date. There's so much good stuff coming out. I just want to make a huge difference in your life and teach you something through these Live with Tonys that can make a difference, that help you to lead a more fulfilling and fun life. Have a good evening.